G'day everyone. Today our guest was Kane Dabbouss from Red Soil Organics. Now we had a fantastic chat and learned a lot about what Biodynamics is. I didn't really know too much about it beforehand, but honestly, at the end of this conversation, we really had a better understanding of what it is and why we'd use it. I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of this. You'll enjoy it, and even if you've never heard the term before, pay attention. You're going to love this.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Eco Convos with Dan. I'm your host, Dan Vanderhook, and we are here in the Century 21 Platinum Agent Studios here in Gympie. And today, my guest here is Kane Dabbouss. Now, Kane is from Red Soil Organics, and so today we're going to be having a little bit of a chat about biodynamics. So, Kane, welcome along.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to be here. That's awesome, mate. Look, you're going to have to tell us what on earth biodynamics is at some point. You know, it's a bit of a thing. We've had a bit of a chat about it in the past, and learnt little bits and pieces. But to a lot of us, it's still witchcraft. So right, what's going on?
To understand biodynamics, then we have to look back at where it all comes from. So in 1924, Rudolph Steiner gave a set of lectures, 8 lectures. You can actually buy the book. It's that was one of the only lectures on farming that got written down. So back in 1924, the farmers kept kind of, harassing him in a way, telling him to, hurry up, come and do these lectures. Yeah. And what was happening at that point in time was the farmers were realizing that the potatoes they were growing weren't tasting like potatoes anymore. And the lucerne they were growing couldn't stay in the field for longer than 7 years.
Really?
When you plant lucerne back in the day, over 30, no dramas. But it would get to that 7 point and the life force started to wane and they couldn't keep it in the field. So they kind of, and this was just as chemical fertilizers, they called it artificial manure back in the day, just as that's kind of coming to. So that was a response to a decline in forces in the soil and life in the soil. They're fairly concerned about what effect it was having on soil biology at that time. So he's come up with these certain set of preparations. I kind of see Steiner as one of the guys who captured that last little bit of ancient knowledge and bring it through into our world. Because as you know, before 1900s, you try and get information, you might get up to about 1850, and at that point, before then, you don't really have any knowledge or any proper deep knowledge, on what was actually going on back then in agriculture and medicine and all that. So there's a bit of a wipeout period that happened there. So I see him as bringing that torch through and giving us a little bit of an insight into what things were like, from a spiritual aspect. Because you got to factor in what's going on today in our day and age with all the Wi-Fi and signals and all the chemicals in our food and all the information from the internet blasting our brains. And we're inside these artificial buildings all the time with artificial light. We're totally out of sync to anything to even get to a point where we can slow ourselves down to that point where the plants are at. Yeah. Because, you see the slow-mo video of the plants and you can see it spiraling, it's moving quite fast. But to get to that point and to really take in that knowledge, then you have to actually slow yourself down, which is almost nearly impossible in our day and age. And then you can take that in. The Steiner was, back in 1924, he was at that point and he was hundreds of years ahead of anyone at that time. So it was quite hard even back then for people to grasp the concept, especially when this NPK theory came out. Just the Liebig, the German scientist who came up with the theory, set some stuff on fire to analyze the ash and he says, NPK, that's all we need.
So what's an NPK?
The nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. The main fertilizers that farmers use. They buy 1,000 liters of it, a bulk bag, and they go and blast that on their field. So that's a salt-based fertilizer. So it kills all the soil life. It stimulates. It basically kicks them in the hyperdrive and makes them eat all the carbon in the soil, and then they release all that carbon. You couple that with ploughing, which of course when you plow, you're releasing the carbon because carbon's a gas. It's changing. It's always changing, moving, and bang. And so the carbon's coming out of the soil. So that's a whole new thing on its own. Let's cycle back to the biodynamics. So that's mainly where the farmer mindset comes from, is that NPK theory, and so that's kind of where we're at now. But when you get to the end of Liebig's life, he says, "I fear that this theory is not applicable to all soil types across the world, and I fear for the soil biology and the effect that it will have on the micro life." So he's saying that, and of course everyone just ignores that part, but listens to the earlier. So Steiner's come in to rectify this damage that has been done to the soil. You can imagine what he would think now with the fungicides, the herbicides, the pesticides, pnematicides,
it's just
and all the rest of the sides, and then genetic modification. So we're at a pretty bad point. A lot of people are tapping into that, realizing that, and taking it into their own hands to regenerate the soil. And so these farmers have done this back in the day, and Steiner, in the lectures, came up with a set of herbal preparations.
Okay.
So it's what we call like BD 500, which is the horn manure, BD 501, which is the horn quartz, and then we have 502, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Yep.
Which are specialized preparations for mainly the compost heap.
Yep.
And for instance, so I guess we should start. We'll talk a little bit about 500, 501, and then a couple of the preps to get an understanding. But the main focus of biodynamics and understanding, I mean, you break down the word biodynamic. The bio is for life, and the dynamic is for energy. So you're trying to capture and revitalize the life-giving energy.
Yeah.
And, people get a bit witchcrafty when you talk about it, but I mean, you look at the cell phones that we're using. There's a silica, there's a crystal inside our cell phone, and when you send a message or make a call, it goes into that crystal and beams up into the atmosphere and beams across to a cell phone tower.
Yeah.
Now, someone might, if someone's going to call Biodynamics witchcraft, then maybe you should throw away your phone, because that's witchcraft too.
That's a really, really interesting point there, man. Yeah, absolutely. So
it's all interconnected in there, and sure, like some people in the field of biodynamics can take it to a witchcrafty point.
Yep.
That's maybe individual influence, but the main thing biodynamics is trying to do is trying to resync the soil and heal the soil. Give it a bit of medicine, medicate it, so that the forces in our solar system and from our stars can then come back in and receive into the planet. So it's seeing the planet as an interconnected system between, our inner planets and our outer planets. Of course, our sun is a part of that too. So it's about looking at the rest of the planets as well.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really, really fascinating, Kane. And one of the things that Aaron Mears was saying now when we met with him as well was that anyone who doubts those the principles behind it, you've just got to see the effects, and all of a sudden you realize how productive they actually are. Yeah,
for sure. And I think that's happening a lot today, especially in the conventional agriculture world.
There certainly seems to be a bit of a shift, and so I think probably where I'd like to actually start as well is, Kane, how did you get into biodynamics? Where did that story start?
I think, so I think for everyone that gets into biodynamics, it comes into your life, pops up, and it might go away, pops up again, and it gets to a point where you go, okay, well, I'm going to have to listen.
Universe is pointing you in that direction, yeah.
Yes. So for me, I just come out of certified organic market gardening, and I was working for the chairman of the Organic Farming Federation at the time, and he was writing all the diplomas of agriculture for the TAFE and the universities.
Yep.
So I was market gardening there, just doing the thing, but we were still getting mildews and mishap germination here and there. And so I kind of, knew something was going on, but we weren't really tapped into it. And at that time, we were putting, finite amounts of trace elements into the soil and balancing all the minerals in the soil, and still would have problems and still would have unexplained events.
Yeah.
So after that, I started making the preparations, built a couple of farms, built a couple of research gardens, and really started making the preps, starting on the 500 and the 501, which is very simple ones that a lot of us can do. And then I watched a documentary on YouTube It's a 55-minute documentary, and it's on Biodynamics. And maybe Dan can attach the link.
We'll pop links into all the social channels and where you get this from. But do you remember what it was called?
If you type in Biodynamics by Rudolph Steiner on YouTube, it's a 55-minute documentary. It will pop up there, and there's a lady standing there. So
yeah, I think I've seen that there while I was preparing for this. Actually, so I've seen that one there. Yeah, cool. So we'll have the links in there for everyone.
Yeah, cool. So I watched that video, and then at the end of it, there's a Indian guy, Jakes, and he's from Tamil Nadu, and I was watching the video, and it really hit me, and I'm like, I can't fault this guy. And so I tracked him down from there and started emailing him. We emailed for about a year, and then I flew over to Tamil to learn how to make the preps. So I learned how to make the 502 right through to the 508.
Okay.
And also the CPP pits we learned to make there in the mountains. So that's kind of...
So what are CPP pits?
So CPP is a cow pit.
Yep.
So anyone that comes to our workshops or anything like that, they know of it very well. So
okay.
It's a preparation we make from pure cow manure.
Yep.
And we have to knead it and we have to massage it like a dough.
Yeah.
And then we pack it into a little pit, a wood or a brick pit.
Yep.
And then we add our 502 to 507 preparations into that.
Okay, so we've got the different preparations. Are you able to break them down, somewhat simply?
Not simply.
Not simply, no. For anyone who's listening, just Kane just rolled his eyes just there.
There's nothing simple. Because I have to take you to a few different places to understand what's actually happening. So we'll just talk about a couple.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the 500, which is the foundation, because a lot of people have heard about the cow manure and the cow horn.
Yes. Yeah.
So we'll talk about that one.
Perfect.
So that's a prep that we make first up to rehabilitate soils. And how we do that is we take the manure of the lactating cow, so a dairy cow, and we pack that inside the horn, and then we bury that over winter. So the reason we're doing that is because the horn is very receptive in nature.
Yeah. And
Steiner talks about the horn as being a way to take in the forces that are out there and cycle them back out. So a bit of an antenna, if you will. And we're using the cow manure to stay within the realm of fertility, because the cows are very specialized beast. Its head's low to the soil. It's really connected and touched into the earth. And it's got the 4 stomachs, so it's digesting and making compost and fertilizing and nourishing. And Steiner talks about the cow as a way to bring in the astral forces and condense them into the earth. So, when you're cutting the horns off, then you lose a lot of that connection as well. So cows are viewed as, something that destroys the landscape, but in reality, they rehabilitate the landscape. It's us that don't manage them properly.
Yeah.
And so...
they're more than just beef and milk, eh?
Yeah. In Biodynamics, we're more about the manure.
Yeah.
The beef and the milk and everything are just extras, bonuses. So we're bringing it in winter because in wintertime everything is internally active inside the earth. Everything is going crazy under the crust. And we see in species like deciduous plants, they are dropping all their leaves, so everything's going back in. The nitrogen fixes are coming back in. And all the forces from our solar system are coming in. It's a breath in. So we're always working with these breath in and breath out type of rhythms. So it's drawing in, and then in spring, back out. And that's why you get such a surge going up.
Makes sense.
And so in spring, when you see your mints or whatever, you see they're, 5 feet away, because they've been extending all their root systems and really active in that period. And so we're using the horn, and that's receiving the forces in through the horn and condensing it into the manure. And when you pull it out, it's a very rich humus substance. So the application rate on that is about 50 to 75 grams per acre.
Oh wow, so you don't need too much at all. It's
not much at all.
Unreal.
But the process, it's all in the process. So we have to stir that for 1 hour.
Yeah.
And so we're stirring it to activate it. And we're wanting to spin it in a vortex to activate and energize the water. So it's one thing to have the substance, that's got all that force in it, and it's another thing to actually
activate it,
turn it on.
So you're saying that 50 to 75 grams, you pop that in water and then use that to irrigate the area. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. So you put in about 15 liters of water.
Yep.
In a 20-liter bucket, so you got room at the top, so you're not spilling the water everywhere. I like to use my hand, or you can use a stick, and you're just stirring, and you get that vortex to go deep into the bucket, but like when you pull the plug in the bath.
Yeah.
And once it gets to that point, then you're going the other way. So you're wanting a lot of people say a lot of different things about this and can kind of go into all this kind of stuff. But the main thing is, you're drawing in life forces.
Yeah.
That spiral shape and that spiral formation is how the water moves and how it is stimulated to have that life force in it. So wanting to enliven the 500, the horn manure, and then we're broadcasting that out at sunset.
Okay.
So we're doing it at sunset because it's drawing in at sunset.
Yeah.
And in the morning, the dew's going back out and the earth's breathing out. So again, we're tapping into that system and we're drawing in. So it's fine amounts. It's almost like a little homeopathic medicine.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So is that medicine for your soil? Actually,
Yes. So the main thing you notice at this point is everything just relaxes and just really sinks back in and taps in and goes, that was good.
Yeah.
Finally, I got a little respect because you've been kicking me for the last 20 years and not even giving me your manure.
Yeah. No, that's really, really interesting how the way you're putting it, how it all just flows together so nicely, and that makes perfect sense as well.
Yeah.
And why does this such a big important thing with the actual rest of the solar system as well? That's a big part of it. That's, I know, certainly confuses me or makes it tricky. I know there's what forces are we working with? What's the
Well, I guess physically the main forces we're working with are sulfur, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen.
Yeah. And
nitrogen. Don't know if I said that.
Yeah.
But that's the main building blocks, and so we're wanting to we're wanting to stimulate those building blocks and give them a pathway where they can actually build themselves.
Yeah.
Because for us to be here in this dimension, in this realm, we have to have something back fueling to get the hard matter. Everything's atoms vibrating, and so there's processes to build real life into this realm, and so you're trying to activate those processes, working a lot with silica and Saturn. But we got we've got the planets and the stars, and we know that the planet and our solar system, what causes seasonal change. And if we look at plants have seasons. So it's very tapped in and synced into those systems. We know the sun. The sun grows all our plants, photosynthesis. It feeds them all, feeds all the soil life.
Yeah.
And we got the moon up there, which is going full moon to new moon, full moon, and it's rising and it's falling. So we're working as well with the physical effects of that. So for instance, when the moon is rising, it is pulling the water from the aquifers up into the soil, and similar and the same as the plant, right? It's pulling the sap up into the higher plants, and as it's falling, it's pushing that water back down. It's pushing your roots down.
Yeah.
So we might sow seeds as it's at the tip of the rising. That seed might germinate, and then as it starts to fall down, it's about a 14-day cycle. It's pushing that root down into the soil. So we're working with the gravity on that effect. And then we've got the full moon, which of course you go out at nighttime on the full moon. There's a lot of activity out there. There's a lot of energy out there, and so we're working with that as mainly as the fertility process. We know it controls water. Most people know the relation between tides and the moon and how it controls water, and water is our fertility.
Yeah.
So it has a strong affinity with fertility and water. So it's a water element. So we're working with the elements of the planets as well, and it's even in the book of Genesis even. So a lot of religious Christians or whatnot kind of think of it as witchcraft as well, which I am a Christian. So so what do they say about that? So you know, it's in the book of Genesis, it says, and then God made the stars and the seasons. So, I mean, even back then, and ancient cultures knew about it. They knew about the relationship between the stars and Sagittarius and all the different constellations sitting behind the moon.
Yeah.
And of course, the moon's moving in front, and it's beaming different forces down to the planet and activating and accentuating different parts of the plant. Where, and you know, back in the day, they're not sitting there watching TVs. You know, they're watching the moon. They're watching what's going on. So,
okay, so if this is using, you know, essentially this is using different energies and different processes in order to, you know, feed the earth, feed the soil, actually create the soil and build soil. You know, especially in areas that we have depleted it. You know, is it something that can biodynamics, at least the principles, be used everywhere?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we've done projects in Glenwood, which is well known in these parts to be basically the desert.
Yep.
So it looks like there's a lot of past usage of sugarcane and attempts at pine plantations, or even pine plantations and then sugarcane. Definitely some overgrazing there.
Yeah.
And so for anyone that's not familiar with that, that's probably about 1 millimeter of topsoil sitting on top of concrete, hard clay and shale.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, well, rock. So we've put systems in there, you know, with diverse cover crops, Speedy 500, 501, CPP, the biodynamic compost that we make. And the trees that we've applied this to, the existing trees, right? Because we chop the system in and around trees and link them all together.
Yeah.
Those trees that have been sitting there for 4 or 5 years, we're doing nothing.
Yeah, they're just it's in stagnant. Yeah.
Exactly. Stagnant, not tapped into anything, not taking anything in. As soon as we applied it, we come back a couple of weeks later, everything's got new shoots, new tips, everything's got flowers on it.
Yeah.
So I'm yet to go back out to that project, but the client has said, oh, "What's going on? You need to come back. Everything's going nuts." So
that's going to be a good feeling.
To go out there.
So in terms of, I mean, you know, that's going to be such a massive, you know, breath of fresh air, breath of, you know, bit of food, bit of nutrient for these plants that have been, you know, not getting anything for so long.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, you went through sort of a couple of the different remedies you did, you know, in that area. You know, is there specific things you need to do in specific places? You know, is there, you know, can you look at something and say this is lacking in this, or?
Yeah, well, the way, you know, you got physical characteristics of soil. You know, you got deep clays, or you got sandy loams, or you got X amount of topsoil, X amount of subsoil. You got rock down there. You got, you know, there's different structural kind of things that you have to work with to some extent.
Yep.
But for the most part, this works in all soil types everywhere. I've dealt with pure rock, so basically, you know, boulders, a lot of boulders like this, and tiny amounts of soil in there.
Yeah.
And one of the farmers I was working with said, "I don't know what to do there. Can't get a rotary hoe. Can't get anything in there. I'm gonna have to bring 30 cubic meters of soil in."
Yeah.
And so, you know, what we ended up doing was sowed out a diverse cover crop, no till, so didn't till it or anything. Just threw it into the aisleways in between. We cut 3 swales in there, and then planted directly into the rock with the biodynamic compost.
Yeah.
So with that BD compost, I guess I should talk about one of the preps, which is 506 Dandelion.
Okay.
So I'll talk about this so you can kind of understand why it works everywhere. So it works everywhere that you have soil. Okay.
Yeah.
So the 506 Dandelion is the dandelion flowers. Now we're using the dandelion flowers because it's got a really high silica process. And so salicylic acid in that process is really what governs our sensory perception. So it's our touch and seeing and that kind of feeling aspect. And so we're taking that, and then we combine that with the mesentery, which is the stomach lining, the lining that encases the 4 stomachs of the cow.
Yeah.
And then we pack it in that. It kind of resembles like the universe, and you're looking in. And so it's a way for that energy, because on the mesentery they got these little almost like 3 skin glass windows. You can see through it. So it's a way for the forces to come in. And we're using the animal parts with the plant parts, because we're trying to bring there's 2 types of energy you're dealing with, or two sets of energetic systems that have been designed into the planet to operate different aspects of the minerals that are combined to enliven us and animals and plants. And so we're trying to take astral, which is the animal force, which is the I need to go drink. I know there's a water hole, okay, over there. I'm going to go and have a drink. That's an astral process. And then we got ethereal, it's easy to remember because it's earth, plants. You've got the ethereal energy that we're dealing with in the plant, which is alive in its own way, but it's not really sentiently active.
Yep.
It's it's alive in its own way, and so we're trying to take that ethereal and we activate it with the astral. We're trying to bring the astral nature into the plant. So then the plant nature is accentuated and enlivened, so it can say, now I have the astrality in there. And so we're taking that 506, we're putting it in the compost pile. So we use about 1 gram per 10 cubic meters.
Yep.
So we're putting that in a really fine amount, and it's working on radiance, a bit like plutonium, how it's radioactive, could be sitting in the corner, but everything's radioactive.
The effect is happening.
So it's that radiant kind of effect. And what happens then is when that comes to the soil that treated with that compost or CPP, then the plant that grows out of that can take that up as so now it has a bit of ability to draw into it.
Yeah.
Things that are if it's up on the top of that ridge, it can come and bring a boron in or a calcium in, so it's not tethered into that one little block of soil. It's now able to stretch out and draw in.
Yeah, so it's kind of using that sort of that sort of intuition, that sort of it's almost self-aware to say, this is what I'm needing, this is what I want. This is
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's one prep, And then you got 502, 503, 504, 505. That one we just talked about was 506.
Yep.
And then you got 507.
Yep.
So that's one preparation out of those preps. Each have their own individual traits. Now, there's also the mineral aspect that comes with that. So you've got, you've got the energetics and you got the almost sentience coming out of that, but you also got the physicality of the dandelion plant, which is you go out in the morning and you see a dandelion, you come back in the afternoon, you see seed.
Yeah.
So it's got that fast flower to fruit formation process. So it helps to govern that in the plants as well. So you can actually apply this as a pure form, activated, and you can spray that into a mango tree or whatever that's got flowers but never fruits.
Yep.
Then you can bring it into a fruit, so you can work with it on that level as well.
So this is something that really can stretch over from that, essentially your home garden and your home stuff all the way through to your large scale cropping and large scale agriculture, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're all using the same things in it. You got your sprayers on the back. Even if you're driving across and crop dusting in plains, there's no reason why you can't add, the 500 in there or the CPP in there.
Yeah.
And then we get, if you're a soil biologist or something and you're trying to put biology into a crop dusting plane, of course they're going to die straight away. But we're not working with biology. We're working with energy. We're working with life forces. So it doesn't matter on that front. You can incorporate that into your spraying schedule, whatever. And if you're actually transitioning or looking to reduce the chemical usage, or even looking at, if you're putting out fertilizers, if you're looking at capturing that and maximizing that and using as much of that as you can, then you can incorporate those finite amounts into your daily routines. I mean, the first thing we do with farmers is make a CPP pit. One pit takes about 20 minutes, and it does 50 acres on a heavy dose. You can do 150 acres, you can do 500 acres with that. Just depends on your operation.
Yeah.
So that's a really economical way to get the most out of crops.
So you're finding you're getting more people, more on the actual commercial side of things. The commercial farmers. You're actually finding they're starting to reach out a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely something that's unlocked on that front.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm seeing three things happening here. I'm seeing, one, the old farmers, the ones that are impossible to get through to, impossible to change, is just completely rock solid.
This is how we've been doing it. But,
I'm seeing the guy across the valley that's been there for 100 odd, years.
Yeah.
He must be 70 years old, been dairying his whole life. He's had to sell up.
Yeah.
Because there's no more money in it. So the conventional guys aren't making any more money. So you're either going to sell out, one, or you're going to get desperate and you're going to change, or two, your family member is going to buy the farm, buy you out, or take over the farm or start to do things, which is going to bring that regenerative aspect anyway. So that's what I'm seeing across all the regions. And of course, with the red soil organics, I'm going all over the place all the time. Byron Bay all the way up to Bundaberg. So I'm going all these different soil types, all these different people. I'm seeing even dropping the compost off and things like that. I'm meeting a lot of people. I'm hearing a lot of stories. So that's mainly what I'm getting. So it's definitely changing. That's the three main.
That's it. Do you find? I mean, I'm certainly seeing that, in my work as well, and certainly seeing that sort of excitement happen, taking things that looking at something a little bit differently and taking a different route to fruition. I'm finding that as absolutely exciting, and I'm sure you are as well.
Yeah, definitely.
No, mate, that's awesome. So, where to from here? Where's something that we can, what we can do at home? Something that our listeners could start tomorrow.
Well, the first thing you can do is get the 500 and get the 500 and 1 into your soil. So 500 and 501. Get those into your soil. So you spray the 501 in the morning as the sun's rising. So you spray that out, and then in the afternoon you spray 500, the soil prep.
Yeah.
You want to spray the soil prep onto the soil, the atmosphere prep into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So we sell both those preps, or you can get the other set of preps from Biodynamic Association of Australia. So we're really the only two places online that you can get preparations from.
Yeah.
So if you look up Red Soil Organics on Google or redsoilorganics.com.au, you can see us on there.
Yep.
We've disabled our shop, so just contact us directly. Tell us what you're doing. Say, hey, I'm new to this. I got this size garden. I'm looking to achieve this, or I've got a farm of this scale. I'm looking to do this. How can I do it? And then we'll give you the personal tailored advice to go with those preps and make sure you know how to use them.
Yeah.
Because you can throw a prep out on the land and it do nothing.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to work with it, if you don't know how to use it, you don't know how to turn it on.
So you've been running workshops and everything as well, haven't you?
Yeah. So we run workshops on biodynamic agroforestry. It's something I call it. So that's the set of systems that I've been working on for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
And so we look at incorporating native forests that we go and chainsaw down, we cut up, we plant to cut it all down and feed the soil.
Yeah.
So we're planting the tree systems. It's a multi-layered system, and we're planting the cover crops, the trees, the veg, the berries, the fruit, all in that.
Yeah.
And on our farm, we're making all the preparations. We have the biodynamic compost there as well. So we do a range of workshops at different venues, some farms and properties that I've built, and also our own farm. And we're all over the show, but mainly on biodynamics, food forestry, agroforestry, all that sort of topic.
Fantastic. You got anything exciting coming up in that regard?
We're just about to release our 2 winter workshops. So we've got a workshop at Ross Creek Tropicals. They've got quite a range of fruit trees in the ground there. So we're going to bring biodynamics to that property. We're going to look.
Is this the first time they've had it?
Yeah, it is.
That's
the first
exciting.
time.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you're into biodynamics and you're in the region, then try and get onto that workshop, because Ross Creek sells a lot of fruit trees there as well. So in the future, if you buy some fruit trees, you can come back and you can see the effects. You can see what happens. So that's going to be an interesting workshop. We're mainly working on how to maximize the orchard or the food forest, how to create your own mulch, your own fertilizer, how to apply all the BD preps, how to make your own tree paste, how to make your own BD preps, and really work with it hands-on. I've also got another workshop coming up out on our property, which will be a half-day biodynamic preparation course. So we'll be making the CPP and working with 500 to 501 and working with the soil and the plants and all the different ways that you can bring it to your own property. And then we've also got a 3-day biodynamic boot camp, which is in Tamborine Mountain. Yeah. So it's on a property there. A lot of Tamborine Mountain deals with phytophthora. They were to inject the trees, with syringes twice a year to kill the phytophthora fungus. Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow, that's
yeah. So we're looking at we're doing a 3-day boot camp there, but we'll open up that 1 day of how to actually fix phytophthora, how to cure it.
Yeah.
What's actually going on and why the sickness is coming to your trees. So how to enliven the tree, how to give it more health, and so there'll be an orchard focus there, and then we're also working with terraces. So on the flats of the terrace, we're going to be putting in strip crops of biodynamic veg.
Yeah.
And then on the slope, we're going to be working with vegetation, primary vegetation that's popped up. So your wild tobaccos, your cassias, eucalyptus. So we're going to look at working with that vegetation and planting fruit trees into that system in a way that utilizes all that vegetation. We keep it there. Yeah. We harvest from it. We feed our fruit trees, and we use it as an engine to fuel the system. And then we also got another terrace where that's happened, but we're going to fully basically reset everything and interplant our system into that. So we've got two different ways that we're going to be working with that. That's a full 3-day biodynamic boot camp. So we're going to have accommodation at the farm as well. So or you can camp there. So a few different things coming up.
That's fantastic. You know, do you have any sort of way where we could give you an email and say, hey, Kane, can you come over to my place? Help. This is why everything's stuffed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we do consulting. From a small vegetable garden up to 50 to 100 acres, and just reach out, give me an email if you want something to happen. We can come over, we can hands-on, we can work. And one of the ways I like to do it is you have your garden there, you have it ready, we communicate, we come in and we just blast everything in that same process.
Yeah.
You learn everything, and then 3 weeks later you have a garden full of food.
Yeah. That's unreal. So I mean, all that sort of stuff. So obviously going to be available on your website, so you can read into that and check that out with Kane, and absolutely redsoilorganics.com.au.
Yep.
And so mate, what do you reckon you've got probably your favorite sort of success story?
I don't know if there's any one favorite or any one success particular story, I guess, but I think maybe one in the region is Carter's Ridge. Yep. So we're working with Jackie out there, and at the start she had no experience, tiny little veg garden out the back.
Yep.
And we cut in a few swales, 3 swales, big swales, planted a mixed species forest on there, and then we cultivated the aisleways, 2 big aisleways, about 30-40 meters long by 3 beds wide.
Yep.
Then you got the swale, and then you got the next 3. So we chopped in a big system, we cropped it out, and she's started to go to the farmers markets and the local co-op. She's been a part of that. And so she's been on a massive learning journey. We've been consulting and working with her. And so it's at a point now where I don't actually hear from her. So it's good.
She's self-reliant now. She knows the thing.
She's self-reliant.
Yeah.
And we set a worker up there as well. So I done a post on my network there and got a worker there to come and do a couple of days a week there. And we actually chopped in another system down below that, similar system, but a bit more intensive. So I think I'm happy with that, because that's what I want to achieve. I want the client, the individual, I want them to be able to understand, think for themselves, and be able to do things for themselves.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Well, that's really imparting that knowledge, and actually, it's the same as anything else. You're planting that seed, and you're helping it grow and letting it grow itself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's fantastic, man. So in terms of that sort of change that happened, in her place, what sort of time frame did that take?
Well, I mean, you chop a system like that in, and you plant the cover crops in the tree rows, so you're generating all your mulch, all your fertility, all there. So that becomes self-sufficient in respect. And then you got the aisleways. So 4 weeks later, you've got a bountiful harvest. But I mean, for the individual to learn and to get to that point of understanding, it takes about 1.5 years. This is probably a 2-year-old system.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of it is reading what the land's doing, how it's changing, how it's reacting, and letting go of your concepts or your conditioning from all the rest of the community. This is in the middle of an absolute sea of rat's tail grass.
Yeah.
So this
which, if anybody knows the rat's tail, everybody goes on about the rat's tail.
Yeah. So that's another way that the system works. So I mean, it's going into a sea of rat's tail, which is interesting because a lot of the past land usage was bulldozing and fire. So we want to step onto the story of species and tap onto things like that. And you can always see past land management as the main reason why species are coming in.
Yeah, there's always a reason why something like something that we classify as a weed pops up. You've got to read why it's there. There's reasons. Yeah,
exactly. And a cactus doesn't grow in the water, and watercress don't grow in the desert. So we need to remember that.
That's exactly right. Well, okay, mate. Look, thank you so much for your input tonight. I mean, it's obviously a hell of a rabbit hole you can jump down to get into it. Obviously check out Kane's stuff over there at Red Soil Organics, and look up Rudolph Steiner. We're going to have all the links to those bits and pieces
Cool.
through our social channels as well. And Kane, we're just getting to that point now where we do our 6 in 60. So, mate, 6 questions, quick fire questions. You've got 60 seconds to get through the lot of them. So, mate, one word answers are okay.
Try my best.
All right, let's go. So, mate, what's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
Just keep driving forward.
One foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Yep. Nice. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Don't be afraid to do the shit jobs.
Yeah. Excellent. What's one thing you're most fired up about today?
Compost, I think. Yeah, compost.
If you could recommend one book or podcast to our listeners and audience, what would it be?
Well, it would have to be the Rudolph Steiner agriculture course or Maria Thun Biodynamic gardening.
All right. And so what sort of personal goals are you hoping to achieve in the next 12 months?
Just looking to get through the next 12 months. Maybe get the word out there a bit more, really tap into the local market, start coming out to my local community and seeing a lot of the preps, the CPP being made everywhere and applied everywhere.
Awesome. All right, mystery question. This is the one that trips a lot of people up. Okay, if you were going to be arrested, what would your family and friends think it was for?
Probably for doing something maybe a little bit crazy, a little bit stupid.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah.
All right. Kane, thank you so much for your time today, mate. I really, really appreciate you coming out and having a chat with us.
So, to be here.
Obviously, check out all those sites. And is there anything else you wanted to add before we finish up?
That's pretty much it. But don't be afraid to reach out to us, or most importantly, with any local business or anything, go into the local stores, go into your local nursery, wherever you're going, and say, do you have this in stock? Do you sell these guys stuff? Do you sell Red Soil Organics compost here? Do you sell, the Jeremiah's crust sourdough here? Just go into the local businesses and ask for these things and just keep hounding them. So if you want to see local businesses thrive and stay alive in these small kind of earthy home-based businesses, then go in and ask these people, because then they'll go, hey, we've been getting asked so much. Do you have this? And then we're able to come bring our stuff through that store as well. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Demand better. Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Kane, thanks again, mate. Everyone, shop local. See you next time.
Thank you.
Wow. Now, I can't wait to get this started in my place. Make sure you check out the video that we've done on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, because that's going to show you all about how the preps look, why you do it. You'll see us digging it up and also have a bit of a walk through Kane's garden. Make sure you like and share and subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple, and I'll talk to you later on. Cheers.